Released in 1975, Jaws wasn't just a movie. It was the moment Hollywood changed forever. The summer that gave birth to the blockbuster era and terrified audiences around the world with a shark they could barely see. But behind that cinematic masterpiece was chaos, danger, and real fear that no one ever saw on screen. Because the horror of Jaws didn't come from the ocean, it came from what happened behind the camera. It was supposed to be a simple thriller based on Peter Benchley's novel. But instead, it became a test of human endurance, pain, and madness that nearly destroyed everyone who made it. The crew drank real alcohol, the screams were real, the blood wasn't fake, and the mechanical shark named Bruce bit more than a few people for real. The movie that audiences called thrilling, the crew called torture. From the moment Susan Baclinier was violently yanked underwater for the opening scene, screaming not in character but in agony, the line between acting and reality disappeared. No safety signals, no warnings, just ropes tied to her and men pulling as hard as they could. She was thrown side to side, thinking her ribs had cracked, losing hearing in one ear when her head hit the surface. When you watch that scene, you're not hearing special effects, you're hearing a real woman gasping for her life. That was just day one of a shoot that spiraled into chaos. The crew nicknamed the film Flaws because everything broke. The cameras corroded, boats sank, and the mechanical shark failed almost every day. Spielberg, barely 26, sat on deck each morning wondering if anyone would survive until the next sunset. Jaws was supposed to take 55 days to shoot. It dragged on for 159 days at sea, with no safety boats, freezing waters, and malfunctioning machines that nearly killed actors. The Orca, the film's main boat, even sank during a scene, nearly drowning Roy Scheider and Richard Dreyfuss as the camera rolled. When it tilted and filled with icy water, Spielberg's only order was, "Save the actors, the cameras can drown." But the footage survived, as if fate knew it was witnessing history. The terror didn't stop there because the real shark wasn't the only predator on set. Robert Shaw, who played the grizzled Captain Quint, turned into a monster when drunk, tormenting Dreyfuss relentlessly, mocking and humiliating him between takes. Their hatred bled into the film, making their on-screen tension frighteningly real. When Shaw filmed the legendary USS Indianapolis monologue, he was so drunk he could barely stand. But when he sobered up and begged Spielberg to let him redo it, what came out was pure magic. A haunting story that silenced the entire crew. A man broken by the sea telling a tale that felt all too real. But that power came at a cost. Spielberg himself began to unravel under pressure. The shark, Bruce, constantly malfunctioned, biting an engineer's arm and sinking to the bottom of the bay. Spielberg started sleeping less, shouting more, until fear itself became his co-director. He couldn't control the monster, so he hid it. Instead of showing the shark, he let the audience imagine it, using sound, shadows, and the haunting score by John Williams to create terror without ever showing the threat. That decision wasn't artistic, it was survival. Even the movie's most famous jump scare, when Ben Gardner's severed head floats into view, wasn't shot on set but in Spielberg's editor's backyard pool, using milk to make the water murky and a fake head floating in darkness. He paid for it himself, desperate to scare audiences one last time, and it worked so well it became one of the most shocking moments in movie history. But the realism of Jaws wasn't just illusion. In Australia, real sharks were filmed thrashing against steel cages, one nearly destroying the set and forcing Spielberg to rewrite the story so Hooper, who died in the book, could survive in the film. Reality had changed fiction. Yet the opening scene's victim, Susan Baclinier, never recovered. She later revealed she'd been left trembling, freezing, and half-conscious in the water, her fear so real she could barely speak. "They called it acting," she said, "but I call it torture." And while audiences applauded Spielberg's genius, Peter Benchley, the man who wrote the story, was horrified. He hated how the movie demonized sharks, leading to years of mass killings around the world. He spent the rest of his life defending the creatures he'd accidentally condemned, saying, "I created the world's greatest fear. Now I have to erase it." Even the actors couldn't escape the film's curse. Richard Dreyfuss developed anxiety that lasted years, haunted by nightmares of Robert Shaw and the sound of engines roaring like ocean waves. Spielberg himself fled the set on the final night by helicopter, terrified his exhausted crew might throw him into the sea as revenge. He later joked, "I didn't want to be their next shark." But his fear was real. He never swam in the ocean again for nearly a decade. And the Orca, the boat that carried the heart of Jaws, was later chopped into pieces and discarded as scrap, the corpse of a dream that had changed cinema forever. Today, when we hear those two notes, dum dum, we still feel that primal chill. Jaws isn't just about a monster in the water, it's about human obsession, the cost of ambition, and how far people will go to make fear real. The shark may have been mechanical, but the pain, exhaustion, and terror were all human. Every scream, every bruise, every broken machine told a truth Hollywood could never hide. So the next time you watch Jaws, remember, it wasn't just a film, it was survival captured on camera. Which of these behind-the-scenes secrets shocked you the most? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Hollywood Bulletin, and press the bell icon so you never miss our deep dives into the hidden stories of classic cinema.